Okay, welcome everyone to another episode of our Wisdom of the Heart video series. And today's topic is going to be really interesting. We're going to be talking about bitterness and what that is. And there's a great phrase in A Course of Love. First of all, let me just hold up the book here. I want to show you what the Course of Love looks like. This is A Course of Love. And its first receiver is Mari Perone. Okay, so today, what bitterness is to the heart, what the ego has been to the mind. And we're going to look at what bitterness is and why that's actually important to look at, because the Course of Love says that we've all have found that within ourselves at times, and how it's going to be transmuted or eventually transmuted in the loving presence of our hearts. So let me introduce today's guest, LaValley, who is joining us from Santa Fe, New Mexico. So welcome, Laurie. It's an honor to have you for the first time on our Wisdom of the Heart video series.
Thank you. And thank God, truly, that it finally all worked out. We've had a few little miracles along the way of making it.
We have definitely had a few little miracles along the way. And so we're going to go ahead and I'll let Laurie kind of start us off. We do have a couple of little passages that I believe Laurie's going to share, and one especially kind of to start us off. And then we'll go from there looking at bitterness, and we'll go into that and expand. Okay, so Laurie, would you like to go ahead and start us off?
All right. Thank you, Lynn. First thing, though, before we even start, is I have to show everybody, I wore this specifically for today. Can you see?
It's her Course of Love sweatshirt. Oh, okay.
To make sure I was in the right frame of heart, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
beautiful.
Oh, well, hello, everyone. I am so glad to be here. And thank you, Lynn, for having me on. I am just really thrilled to be doing this today. Course of Love is one of my very, very favorite teachings from my favorite author, Jesus, who has this incredible Course in Miracle book, and then decided, okay, well, let's keep moving on. We've worked on the mind and the ego of the mind. Let's move on and work on the heart and the bitterness in the heart. And Lynn and I talked about it. This is such a good tying together the two books. And what I see is Jesus's grand plan to keep us moving forward. Let's work on the mind first, because that's where most people are most comfortable, changing ideas, changing thoughts, letting go of the ego. And then let's go to the harder place, which is and work on the emotional self and releasing the ego's grip on our hearts, which keeps us, the thought systems keep us mentally separated from each other. And it's all about being right rather than happy, right? And then the heart, the bitterness in the heart, keeps us from connecting to each other, from loving each other, keeps us lonely and isolated and tough, keeps us tough. And what I see is this practice, deep level practice, is to soften, to become willing to be vulnerable, to become willing to trust with the heart, to become open to the idea that not just do you have to change your mind about things, but you really have to let go of the feelings that are stored in the heart about situations or particular people or self, of course, huge part for that as well. And really clear out both of those areas that the ego in such in such control of for since the separation began.
Yeah. So yeah, that little quote that I wanted to start off with that I mentioned in the beginning was bitterness is to your heart what the ego has been to your mind. And it's interesting that there's a whole chapter here that we were looking at, Lori and I, and it's interesting that the title is actually called the desire for reward. And it says in there, it's almost like this desire for reward. It's almost like it's the sense of a separated self that has to get something, and it also and engenders comparison, and that I don't have enough, I have to get a reward, I'm entitled to something. And then if that doesn't happen, the bitterness grows in our hearts. And it's almost like, it's almost like there's barbed wire around our hearts. And it's almost, to me, it feels like maybe we could say, like, what is actually bitterness? For me, it almost feels like it's like a heartlessness. Like there's something so strong in there. There's a will that's so strong that it's not open. There's no, it's guarded and defended. And
extremely.
yeah.
Sorry, Lynn, I have something I'd really like to add to what you were just saying there too, Lynn, is that what I found through my own life experience, it wasn't directly connected to either course, but just my own life experience, was that I realized at one point that the heart is stronger than the mind. And this was how I realized it. I would, and maybe many people also have this experience, I would decide to do something, or even better, I would decide to stop doing something, changing my mind about something, letting go of something. And emotions would come up and they would just throw out the mental decision. They would just go right over it. And I would be doing this thing that I said in my mind, I'm determined, I have the willpower, I'm not going to do this. And the emotions would just cancel that whole decision out. And I would follow the emotion instead. And I saw that, I didn't see that just once in myself. I saw it, 18 bajillion times. And finally, I realized that I'm not the only one that way, that most, maybe everybody, who knows, that the emotional content has more power than our mental constructs and than our desires. And so in our groups, or How to Become a Christ groups, I'll talk about that later, but our How to Become a Christ groups, we always work on the body as the most separated level, and then the mind is next, and then the heart is after that, because the heart actually has more power than the mind does. And so grateful to come to the Course of Love. Joan Harrington, which I know you know her, Lynn, in Sedona. There's a fantastic Course in Miracle, Course of Love, Way of Mastery, everything community. They're amazing community. And Joan was the one who first started our community there in the Course of Love. And as I started reading, it was just like the Course in Miracles. It was yes, yes, yes. And it was and I felt so confirmed because Jesus was saying through Course of Love that now we need to work on the heart. Now we need to open up these levels, allow the love of God to come in to what has been blocked up to this point, and have all the benefits of the love of God. What I found is my heart being shut down doesn't just shut down my emotional self. It shuts down my whole life. It shuts down every relationship. I could be guarded against Bob, but that guardedness applies to Sally and Sue and Bob and the dogs and the cats. And it's not particular. You're shutting down your heart to one thing affects everything else.
Yeah.
And so then conversely, the opposite is opening up your heart, actually practicing forgiveness and release. We'll talk about the process of that, doing the emotional releasing process. Actually open you up. I may be forgiving Bob, poor Bob, may be forgiving Bob, but that opens me up to be more loving, kind, gentle, vulnerable with everybody.
Yeah.
And I just love how God works that way, when it's easy and it goes everywhere.
When you were saying, what I thought of is when you were saying that the heart is like, it's almost like more intelligent than the mind. I'm thinking of Heart Intelligence or Heart Math Institute, or what the Course of Love actually says, it's called wholeheartedness, where the mind and the heart are joined, or the mind is resting in the heart. And we can get into this a little bit, but I just wanted to bring out too, in the Course of Love, like for me, I think there's a difference between feelings and emotions. I just wanted to bring that up. And for me, I think emotions are buried inside of us. We've shelved them away like museum pieces, where it says later on these emotional aspects of ourselves that where we've had reactivity and patterns that have come up that we're not wanting to look at, because the thoughts of the mind, the ego mind, judges that. And so it's not allowed the free pass through.
Exactly. The flow. There's no flow.
There's no flow because it's been repressed and denied. And the more feeling aspect for me is like the more that raw essence. It's like that loving gentleness, the presence of the heart space is that whole feeling realm. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a fine line, and it's covered later in the Course of Love. But there's another line that you mentioned to me a couple of days ago that I wanted to look at too. You said, and it talks about tenderness, and it says here that the time of tenderness began your release of bitterness and made you ready for this choice in order to transmute the bitterness. And this actually, for everybody, if anybody's familiar with A Course of Love, in the first book, chapter 24 is entitled The Time of Tenderness. And it's interesting because when we start opening up and feeling that tenderness, it says in that chapter 24, The Time of Tenderness, that is the beginning of the release of bitterness, because we're touching into the heart space, and we're learning from love. We're no longer learning from fear in the time of tenderness. And there was another thing that I wrote with it, said that no lessons that do not touch your heart will accomplish anything. So I love that, because if I'm just staying up here in the mind, or the analytical mind, it's just you're just entrenched in the thought patterns. But if it touches my heart, the lessons, that is when something moves. Something opens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing is we're supposed to be changing. We're supposed to be forgiving, and forgiveness means release. It's not I forgive you because you were mean and I'm so much better and now I forgive you and blah, 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 blah. Forgiveness in the way I do forgiveness is I just see it as release. I've released whatever I've been tightly holding on. I release it, give it to the Christ, give it to the Holy Spirit, give it to God, and ask exactly the word you were using, Lynn. Ask for it to be transformed, ask for it to be healed, ask for it to be
Transmuted.
to come back into truth.
Yeah.
Transmuted is a good word too. But that idea of the tenderness, I certainly did. I'm sure this has happened for many people. I first needed to have the trust. I first needed to have a God that I could trust. The God of the ego is vengeful, mean, terrible, horrible, will smite you at the least, at the least provocation, and who wants to be smited? Nobody wants to be. But through Course in Miracles and then into Course in Love, finally really connected with the idea of God as love. And I'm going to share this with you because it's just cute. I think it's cute. My vision of God, the classic vision, is the punishing, perfectionistic old man, So when I when I started to move and grow and open, I see God as this cute little grandmother who invites you into her kitchen and says, "Oh, sit down, honey, and tell me all about your day." Wonderful, sweet, tender, kind, helpful. And to just switch those two things, not that one thing, to switch that one thing from the ego version of God to God's version of God, what a blessing that is, because change, none of us, I found, none of us change unless we know we're supported. To hand over my bitterness, hand over pain, because I see bitterness so much as meanness, as pain. I've had this pain and that pain and that pain, and I'm not going to have any more pain. I'm going to protect myself from pain. I'm not going to look at the pain. I'm just going to do my very best to defend the pain. And when you have a being, God or Christ being or the Holy Spirit, who loves you, you can be vulnerable, open up that pain, be willing to feel it, and then be willing to let it go and turn it over. And that's exactly, I want to read the quote from this. It says, "You bring them, the ego thoughts and the bitterness feelings, first to yourself, to the self joined in unity at the place of your heart." That's where there's enough love and space and kindness to let it go and to turn it over and to trust that you'll be okay. And then from that point, once that's out, I'm just going to continue with the sentence, that we are energy beings, right? Here we're an energy bubble. So in our energy field, here's a pocket of bitterness. Here's a pocket of pain. Here's a pocket of anger. Here's that dang thing that happened when you were in third grade and you've never gotten over it. Here's something from 20 past lives ago. Here's our being that is filled with these pockets of unhealed, unprocessed emotion. And when we are trusting in a loving God, in the Holy Spirit, or in Jesus, or Mary, or any of the Christ beings, there's millions of them, not millions, there's lots of Christ beings. When we're trusting, we're willing to open up those pockets, that we'll go through the pain, we'll look at it, we'll acknowledge it, we'll feel whatever we need to feel, and then we can release it to the Holy Spirit. That's what I do. I give it to the Holy Spirit, give it to the Christ, and ask for that to be transformed. And what happens, don't tuck it back in, don't look and put it back in. You let it go, you release it, and then it's out of your energy field. It's transmuted, it's transformed. And that pocket of pain has now become an open God's love to flow through.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Course of Love calls the pass-through. And yeah, that's that to me is also, it's the intersection point that the Course of Love mentions too. It's that intersection point of the human and the divine, when there's a willingness to fully feel all of it. And I love what you're saying there, is that we have to fully feel it. We have to have a relationship with those feelings and look at the emotions. When there's a trust and there's a safe space, that's the love. That's the beauty of God within us. Nothing is judged. And then that starts the gentle process of, allowing it to come to the light of awareness. And then it's all transmuted. And my experiences, I was going to say, with having these pass-through experiences, the way I know it's released or forgiven or transmuted, whatever you want to call it, a grievance, bitterness, it's because I feel a peace with it. It's like there's a huge, huge release.
I just applaud you for that thought, because that's exactly, that's the motivating factor, is to let go of those things, so that I call it lapja, so that you can get back into love, abundance, peace, joy, happiness. I made that up, but that's what there's what pushes you, there's the pain, the suffering that pushes you, and there's what pulls you. And what pulls you is the love, abundance, peace, joy. Like Jesus says, the call to joy cannot be long denied. It is so, that. And I loved what you said there, Lynn, because I've seen so many people do the take it out, allow it, and then put it back in. Tuck it back in your pocket. And it's like, no, don't do that. Take it out, allow it, feel it, and then deliberately, consciously release it. That's something that Jesus says right here in the Course of Love too, right in this section we're talking, where he says, the ego has become so pervasive, and the bitterness of the heart, everyone has it, all have it. He says, all of this is that we now need to consciously choose to let it go, consciously choose to work on it, let it go, process whatever we're doing, but consciously do the work on it. And that's something we do a lot in our groups. We found that we focus a percentage on, who knows what that percentage is, but a percentage on really getting into the light and the love. And then when you're through meditation and group practices, through I'm just going to show you the book, Through How to Become a Christ, which is certainly can find out more information from me about our groups. We have dozens and dozens of Zoom groups. But so we do meditations where we deliberately go into the light. We deliberately connect with Christ beings, and we deliberately go into that deeper level of ourself. And sometimes you just get the blessing of being there. You get the feeling of oneness, or the connection, or just thing just calms down. And sometimes, often, unfortunately, that light that we have just gone into is shining on the block that's keeping us from being in that light. So it kind of is a double, it helps both ways. You're in the light, but then it's also, the light is also shining on not, you're still in the darkness. So the things you need to work on. So I have found, and this is something I want personally, I personally want to say this, is that if you find, not you, Lynn, but
Anybody, yeah.
if you find that you're reading the Course of Love and you're reading Course of Miracles and you're doing your meditation practices and you're connecting with groups and you're really working on all of these spiritual practices, and all of a sudden you're more depressed than you've ever been in your life, and you can't, and you feel like just laying around all day, or you're angry all the time. This is a really fantastic thing. It doesn't seem like it should be, but this is fantastic, because what's coming up for you is what needs to be released.
Yeah.
I've found is that we really go into a space where we're just in a continual process of release. It's almost like the flow is open. So whatever comes up, oh, this one, okay, release that one. Okay, this one comes in. Okay, release that one. That you don't just stay blocked, and this block keeps coming and hitting you, block, 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 and you oh, go away. That you just open up. These things start flowing up and out. Consciously choose to let them go to be transformed, and so much changes within your own being as a result of doing that. And the effects are cumulative. The 10 things you released last week are going to show up in a greater peace for your daily this week. So if you're feeling stressed about letting go of feelings, if you don't want to look at that hard stuff that hurts, if you don't want to forgive that person who was so terrible, it is such a blessing to let go of those things. Blessing is for you. The blessing is for you. You get them out of your energy field, and you have room for love. You have joy. You have room for connection. Your heart starts.
Yeah.
And it's well worth the struggle for a while.
Yeah, we've done the same thing in our Thursday or Course of Love group. We went for like 50 straight months. Actually, we just ended the group today. It's on hold, and we're probably going to pick back up in the fall. But yeah, it started in January 2018, and we developed and cultivated a whole space like that as well, where people came and because they felt safe to share. And there was a non-judgmental, but that's the beauty of it, coming together, in a sacred space. It's just, and I know you do the same, Lori, in your groups, How to Be a Christ. You got a lot of them. And then, I also have a copy of that book.
I wanted to say one more thing about that, Lynn. That is just beautiful. And I completely agree that to do it in a group setting just makes it easier. Easier. It also makes it quicker, because, oh, well, they're sharing that. Well, I can share this. You're more willing to share because that other people are doing that too. And then the other thing I wanted to share about this too is we don't just stay at this space either. We just like the Course in Miracles, on day 365, it says, now that you can listen to the Holy Spirit and the Christ, go and live your life, just asking for guidance all the time. Well, Course of Love is the same. It doesn't say just go through your emotional heart space over and over forever, eternally. There's a point where, as we were talking, the whole-mindedness, the wholeheartedness come together, that way, come together, and then there's something after that. We are still just getting ourselves up to current. We're
Mhm.
letting go of the past. We're letting go of the old thought systems. We're letting
Mhm.
blockages. And eventually, some of us, it's eventually, but we are getting to current so that then we can be in the now,
Mhm.
spontaneously and authentically from whatever comes up for us in
Yeah.
the now. And then there's spaces to go beyond that. We start working in the energy fields. We start having different experiences, amazing experiences. So that's one of the things I really emphasize about this work is do it as fast as you can, because there's lots of really amazing experiences to have out there when you're not just letting go of all of the old to just
Mhm.
into the now.
Mhm. Yeah. I have had those experiences where it's like time collapses and you're in that flow. And
Mhm.
it's like that's just, to me, I call it the grace stream. You're in the stream of grace, and it's
Mm,
magnificent. And it's
that's
yeah, it's
beautiful.
yeah, and
I love that, Lynn. I
yeah.
love that phrase, the grace string. And you know what's wonderful about that too? That's our natural state of being. That's
Hmm.
wow, oh my God, when an accomplishment and finally in this really unique thing that we've been in the negative, in the
Hmm.
minus 46. That's just getting up to zero. That's just
Hmm.
natural state of being.
Hmm.
And we can start moving into the pluses. We can keep
Hmm.
from there too.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love what Jesus, who is the smartest being I know, I love that he is moving us step by step. And then there's going to be the next step. And then there'll be another.
Hmm.
This is
Hmm.
it. We thought, oh, Course of Miracles, that's everything. And then we thought, oh, Course of Miracles, Course of Love, oh, that's everything. No, there's going to continue to be
Yeah.
ongoing
Hmm.
teaching with him,
Yeah.
because
It's
he
in.
doesn't want us to stop until we're actually wholly in the love of God again.
Yeah. Fully sustained. Yeah, that's we're yeah, always connected. But I love what you were saying earlier about having that trust, because for me, it's like the awareness is not always there. I know that I'm never separate from God, because that's what
Mm-hmm.
the ego is. It's just a belief in separation. So
True.
in truth, we're never separate. But the
Mm-hmm.
awareness is not always there. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was going to
And
say when you
the lived
yes,
state of
the
it.
full,
Yeah.
yeah, lived experience. And it's interesting too, as you were pointing out in the Course in Miracles at the end of the workbook lessons, it says, this is not the end, it's the beginning. And it's the same in A Course of Love.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about the very last part of the 40 days. And even in the addendum, learning in the time of Christ, it's like we continue this
Mm-hmm.
journey, we become
Mm-hmm.
permeable energy, and we share,
Yes.
extend, and we be the love of who we are. And that's
Yeah.
what the Course of Love calls the elevated capital S self of form. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to use that phrase if you don't want to, but it's our truth. Like you were saying, it's the love of who we are. I am as God created me. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
it. But to fully realize it is the key. And to, like you were saying, to live it, to bring that, that experience and realize it in our daily lives. That's
Yeah.
to me is the ultimate. And we do the best we
And
can, as we go along our journey. There's
and the
nobody's,
realization
uh-huh.
is both of the mind and the heart.
Yes, exactly.
And the body follows along because that's what the body does. It follows along. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's not just the mental
Mm-hmm.
awareness or inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way you said that, the lived experience,
Mm-hmm.
the heart combined, the
Mm-hmm.
body back to neutral. You're not doing any
Mm-hmm.
things with the body or to the body anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what a beautiful place to be.
This is all just about extending our love to everyone and just opening that door. There are places that you can reach out for help. There's groups on our Course of Love website. Lori has her group. how to be a
Mhm.
Christ, and they have lots of Zoom groups there.
Um,
Yeah,
Can
and
I say,
go ahead.
can I
Yeah,
say that,
sure.
Lynn? Can I say
Sure.
that? So, this is, you can tell this is my book with all this.
Yeah.
This is how to become a Christ. And then it says 100 conversations with practical exercises to accelerate and expand into Christ consciousness. My father wrote this book from Jesus. He had a revelation with Jesus. And after that point, he could see him and him clearly all the time. And he told Jesus that he would do whatever Jesus told him if Jesus would take him into Christ consciousness or help him get there. And Jesus says, sure. I like that kind of a deal. I'll make those deals all day long. So then after he taught my dad, Jesus told him to write this book. And then it sat around for 20 years doing nothing. I mean, literally nothing. And then Jesus asked me to publish it 6 years ago. So since that time, now there's books all over the place. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it from me here. And we've created Zoom groups, both here and in Europe, that are based on this. So if people want to connect with me, here's my email. It's htbachrist@gmail. And I can send you all kinds of information about our Zoom.
Okay, that sounds great. And we can also put it in the comments on the YouTube channel as well.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, we are going to have
totally
to.
open.
Yeah.
One more thing, totally open to anybody, anytime. You come and go, totally free, never been a charge, always. That's the way Jesus told me to make it. That was a Christ-centered business. Everything's free. Everybody's welcome anytime, whenever they'd like to come. Except for the book. You have to buy the book if you want to. You don't even have to buy the book, but you can buy a book. It's worth it. It's so worth it. It's worth going through the bitterness to let it go. And it's not even equal. It's not equal. You have this much bitterness and you let it go and you get this much love. No, you let go of this much bitterness and you get this much love. God always gives you many, many, many more blessings than what you were holding on to and resisting. So it is so, so worth it. That's my last thought, I guess.
Okay, great. Did you want to read that sentence or did you want me to read it? Okay, because yeah, because we both loved it and we thought it would be a good way to end. And so this is the last sentence of chapter 6 of the desire for reward and a course of love. And it says, bring bitterness no longer to the dwelling place of Christ, and we will seal the place of its entrance with the sweetness of love, so that bitterness will be no more. And I think that's a good place to end. So thank you so much, Lori. It was such an honor to have you. And of course, you're always welcome back at another time. So thank you, everyone, for watching, and peace, love, grace, and blessings to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you so much.